So last week, you may have seen some of the hinting going on our Instagram reels, but today we are here to announce the collaboration between Katherine and I to kick off Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So Katherine, tell us more about Painted with Lipstick.
Yes, so I started working with lipstick back in 2014. We had a really good family friend who was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she would put lipstick on before all of her chemo and radiation treatments. And she said that lipstick was the one thing that made her feel beautiful again, made her feel empowered and confident, and it gave her that little bit of control back over her situation. And I love that something as small as a tube of lipstick could make such a big difference. So I promised myself that I would come up with some way of working with lipstick and creating an entire series to go back and to support the breast cancer community. So I started playing with lipstick in 2014. I started with my own lipsticks at first, and then I went and used my mom's, and then we started doing it as a donation process. So all these years later, I paint with lipstick, and all the lipstick I use is donated to me. A lot of the donations are in memory and in honor of family members and friends who've gone through their breast cancer journey. And it's just been such a wonderful series, very fulfilling work. And I've been able to partner with the National Breast Cancer Foundation and with Ashley here. I donate 20% of my proceeds back to them.
That is so awesome. We love that.
Thank you.
You know, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to have a seat at the table. Those donations make a huge impact on the women and the families that we serve. We're celebrating 32 years of National Breast Cancer Foundation, and our mission is helping women now. So everything from early detection, education, screening, diagnostics, treatment, survivorship, and beyond. It's just an honor and a blessing to be able to use the donations to make an impact on the women and families we serve, women just like Laura.
Yeah. So Laura, tell us why we invited you here today. We want you to tell your story, how you found out you had breast cancer, and we want to hear it directly from someone who is now a survivor.
Yeah, happy to share. So my journey began at the ripe old age of 26. So unexpected, but thankfully I did a self-exam, at 26 years old. Definitely a nudge from God, got in the shower one night. It was October. And so, there's all the media, there's all the marketing, the commercials, you see it everywhere. And no doubt, that helped save my life, early detection. So got in the shower one night, did a self-exam and found something that I knew should not be there, felt hard. It felt big, odd, you just know that that's not right. This is not something that should be there.
But I think it's so amazing you were doing it at such a young age. I feel like people think if you're less than 40, you're bulletproof.
Correct.
What made you do the self-exam at 26? Is it something that ran in your family? Is this, had you had problems in the past?
I did not have a family history, that I knew of, but it was October, like I said. I was seeing it everywhere, hearing it everywhere.
Love that
And
yes. I know.
yeah, it's working. It's working. And that's what made me do it. So, that led to me, I think it was on a Friday night. So go into panic mode all weekend, the fear, the anxiety, the worry. Correct. Called them Monday morning, and I went through my OB-GYN, because at 26, you don't really have any other doctors that you're following with regularly.
I wouldn't know who to go to. Yeah.
Right. So called them Monday morning. And to be honest, I was kind of shocked at their reaction. It was, it's not really any rush. Sure, we'll see you in 2 weeks. You're 26. It's probably a cyst. It's probably benign. Not really this sense of urgency that I was feeling, And so I did end up going to see her a couple of weeks later. And she was like, oh, this definitely needs to be checked out. She did her exam and let's get you in for a mammogram. So I went in for a mammogram, probably took another 3 to 4 days to get in for that, continuing that anxiety and that fear, and went in for a mammogram, which then turned into an ultrasound, which then turned into a biopsy, all in the same visit. The results came in a few days later, and I remember it being a Friday afternoon. I was at work. And they called me and said, the doctor wants you to come in. And I knew at that point, I hit a wall. I knew they would have told me good news over the phone, but come in person, so world kind of crashed at that moment. Drove to her office right away and heard those words, unfortunately, you have breast cancer. Right at that time, she picked up the phone and referred me to MD Anderson. Ironically, I was working at MD Anderson at the time. That's where I spent most of my career. So got me into MD Anderson, and I kind of cherry picked my oncologist and my surgeon. And at that point, kind of just began unraveling what the next 6 months to a year would look like. So I began with 6 months of chemotherapy. I had only been married for a year, so we were kind of still in our honeymoon phase, if you will, and our Friday nights became checking in every Friday night for chemo. That's where we spent our Friday evenings for a few months. And then after I completed chemotherapy, it was time for surgery. And I had a mastectomy, had bilateral mastectomies. The left side was recommended, but I chose to do both sides, given that I was so young, risk of recurrence. So I did bilateral mastectomies and began the reconstruction process at that point. So they put in tissue expanders and went through a few months of expanding them, and then eventually had a second surgery where they switch out your tissue expanders for implants. And kind of finish up the reconstruction at that point. And then after that, it was yet one more phase, which was the 5 years on tamoxifen, which I got to tell you was pretty heartbreaking to hear, because at this point we were ready to start a family.
Okay, so I don't know about this drug. Tell us more about this, because there's probably a lot of people listening that have no idea what that is.
I think you'd probably be a better person to speak about that. But anyway, you take it to basically kind of block your estrogen, so that your breast cancer is less likely to feed off of that or come back, in that 5 years. At the time it was 5 years. I think it may even be recommended longer now. And I guess it depends on the person too.
Case by case basis. Yeah.
Right. Right. So I had to begin 5 years on tamoxifen, which you cannot get pregnant with tamoxifen. It's not safe, for the baby. Right. So, that was just another hit, if you will, of gosh, now we have to delay starting a family, for another 5 years. But I will say God had another plan, and we adopted about 2.5 years into that plan. Once I knew my prognosis was good, I was healthy, I was back to doing everything, that I wanted to do. Our doctor said, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't, go down that path. So we adopted our son, Connor, who is now 17 years old. Yeah. And beyond that, I had to complete the 5 years. So after the 5-year period of tamoxifen, I was able to get pregnant twice. And I have 2 beautiful baby girls. Not babies anymore, but 2 girls.
And what a strong example they see in you as a female that's advocating for herself. I just want to point out that one of the things that really stood out to me about your journey in particular was knowing your body. That's the most important thing. You have to know when something doesn't look right. You have to know when something doesn't feel right. Right. But also you advocating for yourself. Them telling you, it could be 2 weeks. It could be 3 days. Right. It's not, you didn't hear no. You just kept going and you kept advocating for yourselves. And if there's one thing that women hear, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to get your screenings done, but you also have to advocate for the most important females in your life. Right. All the reasons that we delay our screenings and are just really prioritizing ourselves, all the reasons we don't do it, we're not going to be here for those reasons if we don't prioritize ourselves. So what a positive example you set for all your kids, but specifically those little girls, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's so great that you were doing it at such a young age, because going back to what I said earlier, what is the recommended age? I would have never thought to do that at 26 years old. Thank God she had seen the marketing in it. She had the push to do it. But for the people who are just watching this for the first time that have no idea, what do you guys recommend?
Yeah, so MBCF stands by 40, right? Unless you have a family history of breast cancer. And then for Laura, for example, if she's diagnosed at the age of 26, her daughters would start getting their mammograms at the age of 26. Okay. So the age that your family history, the age of their diagnosis is when you should start getting your screenings done. Okay. The unfortunate reality about healthcare right now is they're actually pushing for screenings to happen later. Even 50 is what you're hearing. MBCF firmly believes that 40 is that age without a family history in which you should start sooner. But the reality of it is, you have to, again, know your body. You have to know when things look different, when they feel different. The early signs. Don't be afraid to push back. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. And don't be afraid to push back when you just don't feel like something sits right.
And I heard you say a number earlier in the day before we started filming, about what the success rate is if you find it early.
Yeah, because of stories like this. When diagnosed in the earliest localized stages, breast cancer is treatable and survivable 99% of the time.
That is amazing to hear. Amazing to hear. Just something so simple and so easy that you could be doing yourself without having to make time for we're all busy. We live in a busy world now. I put off doing a mammogram. I still haven't had my lady exam because I put work first. I put my family and work first. Yeah. But Sean always says your health is so important. That's my husband. And he's like, and if you don't have your health, you can have all the money in the world and all the success in the world, but you won't be around to enjoy it.
That's right.
You know, so I went in because I was getting my breast implants taken out. I was forced to get a mammogram, but I was so glad that I did. I went to a wonderful place in the same building as my doctor. It was super easy, super convenient. I was in and out in less than 30 minutes, and it didn't hurt. I think people are scared to go because they think it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, it was no worse than stubbing a toe hurts worse than doing that. But I had this fear kind of built up of how bad it was. But I think they've come a long way with the machines, and it was honestly nothing. And it was such great news. But when the phone rang, it's still very scary. Of what are they going to say?
Yeah.
But thank God it was clear, and I'm glad that I did it and I got that passed. And so after 40, is it every year? Is it every 5 years? What's the maintenance look like?
Every year, you'll see a lot of recommendations that changes as well. NBCF is firm about at the age of 40, every single year without a family history. The other thing that I just want to say too is the reality is not everybody can detect it early. We understand that, but that's why we're here, right? I mean, we're here to come alongside females and men, by the way. Men get breast cancer as well. And to hold their hand and to navigate them through the breast health journey. You know, our job is to really eliminate the barriers to care. No one should have to face breast cancer alone. I'm so grateful that you were in a situation where you had health care, it sounds like, in your back pocket, and you really had an opportunity to have direct access to care. That's not the reality for everybody. And so telling stories like this is just going to remind individuals that if that's not their experience, NBCF.org, you know, we're here to help them.
I also think it's amazing that you mentioned you found your lump in the shower. I've talked to a lot of women who've gone through breast cancer, and especially when you're doing, you know, the self-exams, the shower is one of the best times to implement that into your daily routine, or every other day, depending on how often you shower. But I had, hopefully daily.
We didn't say washing right.
Yes, true. Hair is out of the question. But I did meet a young lady who actually went through breast cancer, and she found her lump because she dropped her loofah in the shower, was too lazy to pick it up. So she soaped up with her hands, and that's how she felt it. So her whole thing with marketing is throw your loofah away. You should be touching yourself with your hands, because you could use your loofah and go over your breast and not feel something that's there. And being able to include it in something like a shower routine is so easy, you know, and obviously as women, we have our skincare routines, we do gua sha, all this stuff. It's even more important to make sure you spend, 2-3 minutes just feeling around, even up in your armpits. There's so many resources, especially through NBCF, where you can find ways of doing very, very thorough self-breast exams. And I just think it's so important, and especially with, like, because you said you were 26 when you found it, correct? I've had so many young women in my studio who, you know, obviously they know that my artwork goes back to the breast cancer community. So I've met a lot of young women who've talked to me about their breast cancer journey. And I'm meeting women who are 20, 21, 22. I mean, very young.
It seems to get younger.
Yes, younger and younger. And I know obviously 40 is the age for mammograms, right? But doing a self-exam, you can do that every month. It's free, it's easy. And there's almost no reason why you shouldn't be doing it. So I think that's really important. And I know they have a big campaign, the Feel It on the First campaign, and it's October 1st, right? So the first of every month, make sure you do a self-exam. It could literally save your life.
I love that. And even if it helps just one or two or a handful of people say, you know what, this is serious, I need to do this. It was all worth it.
Absolutely.
And prioritize that screening. Like you said, we get busy, but we just can't let things stand in the way, because we want to be there for our children. We want to be there for our work. We want to be there for our career and all the things that we hope to do. And by prioritizing that and encouraging the most important females in your life to do the same, you're really fulfilling the mission of helping women now.
I agree. And I'm so glad that you connected with her and that you guys are doing this, because every dollar helps, everything helps.
Absolutely.
You know, help passing the right information to the right people at the right time for someone to hear this that wouldn't have heard it otherwise.
Right.
So I'm so glad that I found you on Instagram after you commented on something and I saw that the tag painted with lipstick. This is so interesting. Was reading more about you and then started asking questions, and now we've developed a friendship. And I'm so excited about this particular collaboration and the message that I want you to read to the people of what you came up with.
Unveiled. So we were very specific about the saying that we wanted our collaboration to be themed around. We knew that we wanted it to empower women, to support women, to encourage women. And obviously, we wanted it to be something that was supportive of the breast cancer community, since it is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're partnered with the National Breast Cancer Foundation, and 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer in their lifetime. But we also wanted to make sure that our collaboration resonated with women who will never experience that, thankfully. So the 7 in 8 women in their lifetime who will never have to go through breast cancer. And so we wanted to do something that was sensitive to both communities. So the saying is, darling, the fire around you is nothing compared to the fire within. And the whole meaning behind that saying is really, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of the trials and the tribulations that are in front of you, no matter what it is, if it's breast cancer, if it's fertility issues, financial issues, if you've become the main caretaker of a parent, there's so many things in life that are hard. It's that whatever you're facing, nothing is going to overpower you. Nothing is going to overpower that spirit within you, and how capable we are of being resilient, of being perseverant, and just like, I don't want to cry, but I just think we need to talk more about the spirit that we have and how powerful we are as women and as individuals. And I just think it's really important.
I agree. And going through this, it's hard unless you've been in that situation. And you've not been in that situation, not once, but twice. When you're going through that, I don't think people talk about the nitty gritty, of what it's really like. I did IVF. No one told me how hard it was going to be. And I was posting about it publicly thinking it was going to be no problem for me to get pregnant. Right. You don't know the ups and downs when your hormones are all off of whack and you think that this could be it, that you could, your life could end over something by hearing just C word. Everything's over. Everything you worked so hard to achieve. You're starting your new family and all your dreams could be washed away in an instant. So at that moment, when you're feeling like this could be it, like what kind of emotions, explain what that's like, hearing those words and in that very moment.
Well, like you mentioned, every what if, goes through your mind. What if I never have kids? What if, I don't live to see them grow up? What if, what happens to my husband? Is he going to be left alone? Every what if possible goes through your mind, but it's just a constant sense of fear and anxiety. I bet my blood pressure never, ever went down.
I try to, put myself back in place when I'm having a moment of anxiety, because we all have it. I feel like post-COVID, we all suffer with anxiety at different levels, but I try to put myself in someone's shoes, like yourself, what you must be feeling, and it makes my problems just kind of wash away. They're unimportant, to be in that moment and to go through all those emotions, like fast forwarding your brain. Where am I going to be in a year, in 5 years? Am I going to lose my hair? Am I going to lose my husband? Going to be widowed? It's just, I can't even imagine what that would feel like. So I love the message that Katherine came up with. We bounced around a few ideas, and I thought this was perfect when she came up with this, because it's something that you can look at every single day. So this could be a gift to someone that that is going through an IVF struggle or breast cancer or any type of cancer.
Right?
Yeah, to be able to look at that affirmation every single day and know that I'm going to make it through this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even prepping in my studio, getting ready for National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I can't tell you how many times I glanced over at that, and it was the perfect reminder I needed. Even just, as an entrepreneur, having stresses of business and just the day-to-day stuff, I think it's a good reminder for the big problems, and like you said, the small problems, being able to put that in perspective.
Yeah, and I think it all makes sense kind of wrapped around, I'm sure many of you guys have heard of the lipstick effect.
Yeah.
No matter how bad you feel, you put the lipstick on, and when you look good, you feel good, and when you feel good, you do good. Absolutely. And that all ties into what you do with the lipsticks in your paintings. And if you haven't seen Katherine's paintings, we'll put some up on the screen now so you guys can see her wonderful, wonderful work. And I do want you to talk about a couple of your paintings. The first one that drew me in was the rose that you did, and then the boxing gloves, and I see you working on the sneakers now. What do you do these commissioned paintings for? What do they mean? Tell me more about those paintings that you're working on and have done in the past.
So I've done a variety of different subject matter. I started with my body collection, which was a couple different paintings showing the female figure, and they're titled the different stages of going through breast cancer, or at least what I would assume going through breast cancer is like. So we have devastated, adjust, reflect, and debate. Thank you. And all of the poses, I wanted to make sure they were done where they were feminine and they were beautiful, but the breasts are not showcased in any of the paintings. And I did that because I know a lot of women, they get double mastectomies, and that's a very hard thing to go through, is obviously losing your breast. And I wanted women to realize that there are other parts of your body that are beautiful and feminine, and they deserve just as much attention. And so I try to focus on the wrist and the neck and the shoulder and things like that, and showing the femininity through other parts of the body. I also have the floral collection, so I do lots of roses. That's another subject matter where I wanted to do easier imagery, because I know not everybody wants to put a nude woman in their home. So something a little bit easier. And obviously roses are very symbolic of women. And obviously you're this beautiful flower, you have all these layers to you, and you're soft and you're delicate, but you also have this, this stem with all these thorns on it, and you're very powerful. So I love the Rose series, and the one I believe you're speaking on is Janie. That was one of my big commissions for a collector out in Las Vegas. She was a breast cancer survivor. She actually got her treatment at MD Anderson. And with her painting, it was so special because it was a commission. I told her, I said, listen, I can use my lipstick inventory because I've got a lot of it, but I want this to be very special for you. And I want it to be a personal painting for you. So I said, do you have lipsticks that you can collect and send to me from friends, family, whoever helped you through your breast cancer journey? So she sent me lipsticks from friends, families, doctors, nurses, surgeons.
So much more meaningful.
Yes, all of her people. And her mother as well, who had passed away a couple years before we did the commission. And the thing I loved about her mom's lipstick is it had this gold shimmer in it. So I made sure to use a lot of that in her painting. So when the light hits it and it sparkles, she knows that's her mom there with her. But we were able to get that painting finished, sent it off to her, and it sits in her house as a reminder of all of the amazing women who got her through such a terrible chapter in her life, and able to take something that's very sad and a dark chapter and be able to bring love and light to it. So that was a really, really fun project. And then toe to toe, as you mentioned before, there are men who get breast cancer. And at one point I looked through my studio and I was like, wow, everything's pink and red. It's so feminine. Like I need there to be some other masculinity to kind of balance it out. And I actually had a friend of mine who's a breast cancer survivor. And she said, sometimes I hate that breast cancer is pink. She's like, breast cancer is not pink. Pink is happy and cheerful, and breast cancer is hard and it's sad, and pink is not the right color. So that always stuck in my head. And I told myself, I'm like, I'm going to do a painting that has no pink in it at all. So the boxing gloves obviously symbolize the fight, right? The fight against cancer, the fight for your life in some circumstances. And I have the boxing gloves in a way where I wanted to make sure they were painted and looking very rugged, cracked and worn, like they had really been in a battle. And they look as if they're hung up. And they're hung up so that the viewer can decide whether the battle was won or whether the battle was lost. So it's up to your interpretation. But that was a way to kind of pull in that masculine energy. And I have a lot of people who mention that. They're like, oh, this is like for the men, and like, yeah, it's everybody. But I do love that it brings in the masculine side. But working on the series has been so incredible. I mean, obviously I've met you and we're just like great friends now. Love it. But I've met so many amazing women who've gone through something that I couldn't even imagine. And to hear their stories and to hear how powerful they were and how resilient they were, even with all the things that they went through, and not even them, but their support system, what the co-survivors go through, what the husbands and the brothers and the moms, and, it really does take a village to lift a woman up during that time and to be able to be there for her. And it's just been so awesome, and I get to meet you, Laura, and hear your story. And yeah, I mean, I'm so proud and I'm so excited to be partnered with you, Jentry, and be able to bring light to this and hopefully get people to take their breast health seriously.
Yes. And like we said earlier, even if it just helps one person,
Right.
a handful of people, this was all worth it.
Oh yeah.
So the art goes on sale today, which is October 5th. We are launching it. We are so excited. Tell them how many pieces there are. Tell them about your original. Tell them about the prints. I want her to tell you what we are offering. And all of this the 20% would go donated to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. So it's for a good cause. And I think it's also good, like I said, to have daily affirmations for someone who is going through it, regardless of what they're through it means.
Absolutely.
And so gifting to a friend, something that you would like to have in your own home, something you feel like you need to look at every day too, or if you're a survivor as well. So tell them about your fantastic piece of art that you came up with.
Oh, thank you. Well, the first thing is I have to thank Unique Arts of Houston, because they always do an amazing job framing it. And we came to them with a pretty big ask. I said, listen, you got to, I know, I was like, yes, and we need it ASAP. I said, we want to float this piece of paper. Obviously it's lipstick, so you can't touch it because it doesn't dry. But we also want to float a tube of Jentry Kelley's lipstick on here. And, so they, as professional as they are, figured out the most beautiful way to float it. You literally can't see it from any angle. So this is the original. It is signed by me as a one of one. It is a one of a kind. We will not be doing any more of these, but we do have prints. So it is an exclusive print release. We're releasing 100 prints. They will be numbered 1 out of 100. And Jentry Kelley and myself are signing every print.
Sorry for my chicken. She has beautiful handwriting. I do not. So it's not a serial killer.
We're going to work on it. I'm going to coach her through a signature. But they're going to be online. I believe we're listing them at $249 each. And so they're exclusive, signed and numbered. And then they each come with a goodie bag. In the goodie bag, I will let you tell them what's in the goodie bag.
Has a lipstick that she used to do this painting with. So it is, wait for the name, Marilyn Monrose. Is that not the most perfect name? And when I told her to come to my studio and go through all the colors, I was thinking of pink. And she left and she's like, I hate them all. Just kidding. I found the perfect one. And she didn't even notice the play on words when she picked it. So I just think the whole thing just kind of came together perfectly, because we all know the rose Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they're all tied together. So I think it couldn't be a more perfect shade. I think the matting the pink against the red looks great. I think the whole thing came together flawlessly, and I'm just so excited. So get yours before it sells out, because I hope today we do just that. And check out her work on Instagram at Painted with Lipstick as her handle. And I know that you guys are going to fall in love with her work. And if you ever need a commissioned piece by hers truly, give her slip into her DMs.
Please.
And thank you guys all for being here, and you from flying all the way from Dallas to come see us today. We really appreciate it. And thank you for being here and telling your story.
Of course, it's an honor.
Thank you so much for watching. For more information on National Breast Cancer Foundation's life-saving programs and services, including mental health resources, visit nbcf.org.